Good evening, my friends. I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about the area of your life that feels most stuck right now. The situation that has been the same for months, maybe years. The pattern that keeps repeating no matter what you do. The thing you have tried to change, worked on, worried about, prayed about, and yet here it is still sitting in your life, largely unchanged. Most people look at a situation like that and ask, why won't this change? But that is not the right question, because the answer is already in the title of what we are exploring tonight. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Not out there, my friends, in here, inside you, in the invisible inner world of assumption, belief, and state of being that is quietly, faithfully, without a single exception, building every condition of your outer life. The reason nothing has changed is not bad luck, it is not bad timing. It is not that the universe has forgotten you, or that you are somehow less deserving than the people around you who seem to move forward with ease. The reason nothing has changed is simply this. The inner world that created your current situation is still intact, still running, still broadcasting the same frequency it always has. And a world built on that frequency cannot look any different than it does right now. But here is what I want you to hold on to tonight, and I mean really hold on to it. This is not a life sentence, this is a diagnosis. And every diagnosis points toward a cure. Tonight we are going to find it. Let me tell you about a man I knew who had a gift for beginnings. He was genuinely talented, charismatic, full of ideas. Every few years he would launch something new with tremendous energy and enthusiasm. A new business, a new city, a new relationship. A new chapter, as he liked to call it. And each time the people around him believed in him because he believed in himself, at least at the start. But something always happened. The excitement would fade, the obstacles would arrive, the new thing would slowly start to look and feel remarkably like the old thing. And within a year or two he would find himself standing in the same place he had always stood, just with a different backdrop, different city, same loneliness, different business, same financial pressure. Different relationships, same arguments. When he came to me, he was exhausted. He said, I keep starting over and ending up in the same place. I don't understand it. I said to him, tell me, when you started each of those new chapters, what changed? He listed everything, the location, the industry, the people, the habits, the routines. I asked, and what stayed the same? He went quiet. What stayed the same was him, not the surface version of him, the version that moved cities and launched businesses and committed to new beginnings. The deep version, the assumptions he carried about what he deserved, about how hard life had to be, about whether good things lasted, about the kind of man he fundamentally was. He had been changing the scenery without changing the self. And the self, my friends, is always the architect. Change the scenery all you like. If the architect is unchanged, the building will look the same. When he finally understood this, not just intellectually but in his bones, everything became different. Within a year, the same qualities that had always served him at the beginning began serving him all the way through, because the inner world had changed, and the outer world had no choice but to follow. So why does this happen? Why do so many people keep arriving at the same place, no matter how many times they change direction? The answer is simpler than most people want it to be. Your outer life is not being generated by your actions. It is being generated by your state of being. And your state of being is determined by your dominant assumptions, the deep, often unexamined beliefs you hold about yourself, about life, and about what is possible for someone like you. Think of it this way. Your assumptions are like a thermostat setting. The thermostat is set to a certain temperature. You can open a window, turn on a fan, bring in ice. The temperature will drop for a little while. But the thermostat is still set where it is. And before long, the room returns to exactly that temperature. Most people spend their lives opening windows and bringing in ice. They take action after action after action, and they see results, sometimes remarkable ones. But if the thermostat, the deep inner assumption, has not changed, life always finds its way back to the same temperature. This is why you can read every book, attend every seminar, try every strategy, and still find yourself circling the same mountain. Because the mountain is not out there. It is a projection of what is in here. And projections do not change until the source changes. The loop keeps looping because the assumption that created it is still running, quietly, invisibly, underneath every new attempt to change. And the moment you change the assumption, really change it, inhabit a new one as though it were simply and obviously true, the loop breaks. Not eventually, not after enough effort, immediately. because the thermostat has been reset, and now the whole system begins moving toward a new temperature. I want to share something with you that I think will stay with you for a long time. A woman came to me who had been waiting. She had been waiting for years for conditions to improve before she allowed herself to feel better. She was waiting to lose weight before she felt confident, waiting to have more money before she felt secure, waiting to find love before she felt worthy, waiting for the outer world to hand her the inner state she was longing for. She was kind, this woman, thoughtful and genuine, and completely, invisibly trapped by a belief she did not even know she held. The belief was this, that inner states must be earned through outer conditions, that you feel confident after you become successful, that you feel secure after the money arrives, that you feel worthy after someone chooses you. She had the sequence completely backwards, and it was costing her everything. I asked her, what if you stopped waiting? What if the confidence, the security, the sense of worth, what if those were not rewards waiting at the end of the journey? What if they were the journey itself? What if they were the very thing that had to come first? She looked at me with that particular expression I have seen many times. The expression of someone hearing something they have always known but somehow forgotten. She stopped waiting that week. She did not wait to feel confident until she lost the weight. She began inhabiting confidence now, as she was, in the body she had, in the life she had. She did not wait to feel secure until the money came. She began assuming security as her natural state and letting the outer world catch up to that. Within 6 months, my friends, the outer world had caught up considerably. Not because she had worked harder, because she had finally changed the inner world that the outer world was reflecting. She told me afterwards, I spent years trying to earn states that were always mine to choose. That is the whole teaching right there. Now I want to be honest with you about something because I think it is important. When I say the inner world must change, I am not talking about positive thinking. I am not talking about repeating affirmations you do not believe, or painting a smile over genuine pain. That is not change, that is decoration. And decoration, as we have established, does not move the thermostat. Real inner change is something quieter and something far more powerful. It is the moment you stop identifying with the story of your limitations and begin even slightly to inhabit a different sense of self. Not a performed self, not an aspirational self you are hoping to become someday. A chosen self, a self you decide here and now is simply who you are. There is a difference between saying, I am trying to become someone who is abundant, and quietly, firmly settling into the assumption that abundance is your natural state. One is striving, the other is being, and the law does not respond to striving, it responds to being. This is the shift that changes everything, and it is available to you right now, in this moment, regardless of what your current circumstances look like. Because your circumstances are not the measure of what is possible. They are the measure of what has been assumed. And assumptions can change in an instant. I have seen it happen. A man who had struggled financially for 20 years shifts something inside himself on a Tuesday afternoon. And by the following month, his entire financial situation has begun to move. Not because Tuesday afternoon contained any magic, but because that was the moment the assumption genuinely changed. And the world, faithful as ever, began immediately to reflect the new one. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just a quiet, firm interior decision to be different. And then the patient, expectant watching as the outer world reorganizes itself around that decision. I want to tell you about a conversation I had with a young woman that I have thought about many times since. She was intelligent and self-aware, which made her situation all the more poignant. She understood the law. She had studied it deeply. She could explain it beautifully to others. And yet in her own life, in the areas that mattered most to her, nothing was moving. She came to me genuinely puzzled. I understand all of this, she said. I know the theory. I practice the techniques. Why isn't it working? I asked her a question that seemed, on the surface, very simple. When you imagine having what you want, I said, how does it feel? She brightened. It feels wonderful, exciting, like something amazing is about to happen. I said gently, there is your answer. She looked at me confused. I said, about to happen is not the state of having. Excitement about something coming is not the feeling of something here. You are practicing the feeling of waiting rather than the feeling of having. And so the law, faithful and precise as it always is, keeps delivering more waiting. This is so important, my friends. The feeling of something wonderful about to arrive and the feeling of something already here are two entirely different states, and the world responds to the state, not the desire. She understood immediately. She stopped reaching forward toward her desire and began settling back into it, as though it were already the ground beneath her feet. As though it were not coming, but simply, quietly, already true. Within weeks, the circumstances she had been waiting for began to appear. Not dramatically, naturally. The way things appear when the inner world has genuinely accepted them as real. I want to say something to you directly, and I want you to really hear it. If you have been on this journey for a while and feel discouraged, if you have tried and studied and practiced and still feel like you are circling the same ground, please understand something. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not someone the law has decided to overlook. You are simply someone who has not yet changed the one thing that needs to change, and that one thing is closer than you think. It is not a technique you have not yet discovered. It is not a missing piece of knowledge. It is a shift in identity that is available to you right now, in this moment, without any outer condition needing to change first. The most powerful thing I can tell you is this. You do not need to earn a new reality. You need to assume one. The difference between the life you have and the life you want is not effort. It is not time. It is not luck. It is the gap between what you are currently assuming about yourself and what you would need to assume to live the life you are imagining. Close that gap on the inside, and the outside will close it too. I knew a man who had spent 30 years believing that a certain level of success simply was not for him. Not consciously. He would never have said it out loud, but it ran underneath everything. A quiet background hum of not quite deserving, not quite enough, not quite the kind of person that certain things happen to. One day something shifted. He could not even explain exactly what. He said it was as though he simply got tired of agreeing with the old story. And he stopped. He did not fight it. He did not argue with it. He simply withdrew his agreement and chose something else. He told me later, I stopped thinking of that life as something I was trying to reach and started thinking of it as something I already was, just not yet showing up in the physical. Within a year it was showing up in the physical, abundantly, undeniably, exactly as he had assumed. So here we are, my friends, at the place where everything either shifts or stays the same. And you already know which one it will be because you are still here. You did not come this far tonight because you are someone who stays the same. You came here because something in you knows it is time. If nothing changes, nothing changes. We have established that. But the beautiful truth underneath that statement is its mirror image. When something changes, everything changes. And that something is always only the inner world, the assumption, the state, the quiet interior sense of who you are and what life is for you. You do not have to overhaul your entire life tonight. You do not have to figure out the how. You do not have to see the path. You only have to do one thing. Choose the new assumption. Choose the version of yourself who already has what you are imagining, not the version who is hoping, working, waiting, and wondering. The version who simply is, who lives from the inside out, who knows that the outer world is always faithfully, precisely answering what the inner world is saying. And then live from that, not perfectly, not without moments of doubt, but consistently enough, persistently enough, that the new assumption becomes your natural state, your default, the ground you stand on. That is all it takes. That is the whole of it. The world will do the rest. It always does. It has never once failed to answer a genuinely held assumption. Not for the lucky few, for everyone, including you, especially you. Go and change the one thing that changes everything. Go and change yourself. Thank you and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video.